The area of confusion for a lot of leaders is that values are not rules, even though they behave essentially in the same way. Follow the rules, and if you don't, there are consequences. Similarly, you're supposed to follow your values, and if you don't, there are consequences. The difference is that rules are generally there to achieve compliance. Values are there because they shape who you are, your identity as a leader and as an organization. The consequence to breaking a rule is some form of punishment. The consequence of compromising your values is the degradation of your identity, integrity, reputation, and credibility. And that is important because when you're running an organization, the benefactors of your work, the end recipients of the products or services you provide, don't pay attention to how you were compliant with all the rules, but they do pay attention to who you are and what kind of business you run. And frequently, customers, clients, and constituents will spend more money and give their business to the organizations that are consistent and true to their values. And so, very much like trust is directly related economically to speed and cost, so are values. Clarify and live your values well, and ensure that your core values penetrate your organization, and the number of rules you need declines. The cost of doing business declines, and the economic value of your organization increases, which of course means an increase in revenue. So, what are values, and how do you clarify them? Values are essentially the fundamental principles to which you are committed. They are the guiding moral or ethical codes that govern how you behave in everything you do. And, no surprise here, they are commensurate with your mission and your vision. Also, no surprise, your values exist, not on paper, but in the life you live in the context of your leadership and your work. In fact, one of the great tragedies in business is that virtually every organization in the world has some written or stated values that they claim to be their guiding principles. But as you already know, not every organization actually lives by them. Once again, how you live must match with what you say you value. The nuance here is that if you really have these values, if they are core to your identity and your work, you don't have to work very hard to live by them because your values are that core and basic to your being. They are, in many ways, second nature to you. And one of the best ways to test whether or not they are truly core values is when values confront opportunism. Throughout your leadership career, you are going to be tempted to compromise your values because of an opportunity that comes your way. An opportunity most likely in the form of some kind of financial gain or preservation. For business, this can come in the form of a high-paying customer or a shareholder with a lot of capital. For a church or nonprofit, it is usually in the form of a donor. The problem with money is that it is a form of power that asserts itself as control. And people use this form of persuasive influence all the time for their own particular selfish gain. And so organizations will be tempted to take the money, especially if it is a substantive amount, even if it means the money is tied to some agreement, what may appear to the leader to be some seemingly innocuous stipulation. The leader can convince themselves that the obligation really isn't that big of a deal, and then they rationalize how the windfall could do the organization good. Now, if the money is in direct support and perfect alignment with your core values, then there's really no conflict. However, if you find yourself making rationalizations, you're in trouble, because that is the beginning of compromising some value sets for the sake of the financial gain. And when you do that, then your values are not core, nor are they clear, and you begin to erode the trust you have in yourself and the trust your people have in your organization. In situations like these, you must understand that core values always compromise short-term gain for long-term integrity. In other words, you are not just willing, but committed to taking a loss now for the sake of your core values, knowing that your values will sustain the success of your organization over the long haul. Be clear in your values, in how you operate, in the way you do business, and do not compromise those values for opportunistic gain. Be committed to your values by living them. Your leadership and your organization depends upon it. Now, in the process of identifying and developing your values, here are 5 things you need to keep in mind that will guide you along the way. First, identifying your core values takes time. This will be a process that could take months or even years to hash out. It doesn't mean that you won't have anything written down immediately, but it simply means that you'll need time to identify and solidify your core values. Part of the reason is that values remain consistent throughout various situations and circumstances, and you'll need time to observe that consistency. Second, and related to the first, audit the past. One way to truncate the future time needed to identify your values is to think through the past several years of your life or of your organization's life. Do a brief analysis of the most important decisions you've made and ask yourself, why? Why did you make those decisions in those ways? Most of the times you will find yourself identifying some sort of value. For example, in a business, you may have discovered that you have a track record of always doing a bit extra for the customer. You may have identified going above and beyond as a core value of your customer experience. If you're a not-for-profit organization, you may have noticed that you consistently attend to the wider problems of your community and not just to the specific issues of which your organization attends. You may have identified think wider as a core value. Third, get past what I call the you must be this tall to ride values. Those are values such as honesty, respect, and don't steal. These are not core values. These are minimal entry requirements for being a decent human being. The point of identifying your organizational core values is that they are specific to you and how you work. Basic human decency is necessary, but they are not core values. Fourth, a core value is something that exemplifies the personality of your organization. There are some organizations that care deeply about being polished and opulent. Other organizations really are about having fun and being relaxed. And others might value always exceeding expectations. Whatever it is, again, it has to be true to you and you must be committed to them. Fifth, don't have too many. No more than 4 to 5 core values. More than that, and you simply complicate things for your people. Narrow down your core values to the top 4 to 5 phrases and ideas that fit the above requirements and stick to them. Okay, friends, establish trust through your character, your competence, and your honesty with both. Be clear on why you exist, what you wish to achieve, and how you're going to get there. Once you've done this, you must effectively and persistently communicate these commitments over and over again.